Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Tune Up Your Email Security. We will discuss the latest threats and the innovations in Symantec Email Security Cloud. My name is Maïdi Den from MBCom Marketing Team, and I'm happy to be your host. Please, before we begin, make sure your microphones are muted during the session, and you can use the chat box at any time to share your questions. We will go through them as we moving on the webinar. Also, the session is recorded and it will be shared with you all later, and it will be available on MBCom YouTube channel. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Warren Saley, Broadcom's email security subject matter expert, and he will walk us through today's topic. Over to you, Warren.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. It's wonderful to speak with you all. Just before I dive in, can we just confirm that the slide I have sharing is up on the screen, please?
It is indeed. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so as per my introduction, my name is Warren Seeley. I am Broadcom's Technical Director of Messaging. Before that, I had the pleasure of working with Symantec, and before that, I joined a company called Message Labs back in 2021. So I've been working with the cloud email security solution now for just over 25 years. What we're going to do today is we're going to spend the first part of this session looking at the threat landscape. Where do we see email security threats to our customers? Then from there, a little bit about the service overview. Some of you may be very familiar with the email security service. Some of you may be less familiar with the email security service and with Symantec Messaging Gateway. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to make sure that we all understand the high points of the service. After that, I'd like to share with you some of our recently added features. We have been working very hard on the email security service recently, and we have released a number of excellent features for our customers around the world. And then finally, I'm going to have a little glimpse into the future. This is not a roadmap session. We're not under NDA. So if you would like a more detailed look at our roadmap, Callum and myself would be very happy to arrange something for you. But as we can't do that at the moment, I'm going to talk a little bit generically about the way in which the industry is going in the future. As has already been mentioned, if you have any points, if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat and I will try and pick them up as we're going along. Failing that, we'll try and have some time for Q&A at the end. And if we don't get to your question during this session, don't worry, we will respond to you on email as soon as the session is over. So let's start talking a little bit about the threat landscape and some trends. Now, at a high level, there's a couple of things which are of interest that we need to talk about. The first is the rise of QR code phishing. So QR code phishing isn't new this year. QR code phishing has been around now for probably 3 or 4 years. It became very popular around the time of COVID because I think people got quite familiar with QR codes. And what it does is it puts a QR code into the body of the email or into an attachment on the email and tries to use social engineering to get you to point your mobile telephone at that, go to the URL and enter some phishing information. Why? Why would they even go through this? It's because they are testing email security companies such as our own to make sure that we can understand the QR code, parse it, extract the URL, follow that URL and analyze that URL. And it's no secret to say we can do this, and I'm going to go into that in a bit more detail later. Another attack that we've seen and defeated recently was echo spoofing. Echo spoofing was an attack using Microsoft Office 365, and the attacker was registering a throwaway Microsoft Office 365 and using complex email redirection rules in order to impersonate legitimate large Office 365 businesses. We identified that some of our customers were under attack, and we introduced new features in order to be able to prevent this. And then finally, sophisticated long attack chains. When I joined this organization, the attack was an attachment on an email. It was a VBS script with a virtual Valentine's Day card from somebody who loved you. You clicked on the link, It ran the code, it emailed itself to everybody in your address book. Today, we see an email with a benign attachment, such as a Word document, which has a macro, which generates a URL, which drives you to a legitimate document sharing site, such as Google Drive, which then redirects you to a less legitimate file sharing site, which downloads a zip file, which contains a curl command, which then downloads a payload to your machine. There are 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 8 steps between the email that you get and the actual payload, which is going to impact your machine. Again, this is designed to test and circumvent email security technologies such as our own. And we have to evolve in order to be able to meet this with technology such as link following, where we actually don't just look at the URL in the body of the mail or the document in the mail, we actually follow those URLs to their intended destination. So how are businesses being compromised? Now, there's a lot on these slides. I'm not going to go out through everything in forensic detail because we just don't have the time, but there are some highlights that I want to call out. Firstly, the rise of ClickFix. ClickFix is just a new name for social engineering. And what ClickFix is trying to do is trick users into attacking their own computers. So you will have an email, it will pretend to come from your support organization, and it will say, oh, you've been sent a document. In order to read this document, you need to enable scripting and turn off this level of security. Of course, that's what the bad guys want you to do, because then when you do open the attachment, the macro malware is able to run. Or it might say, this is your security organization. We've noticed a vulnerability on your machine. You need to update it. Please take this information and open a command prompt and paste or write this into the command prompt. Again, the bad guy is tricking his intended victim into being part of the problem. And as you can see, this is a huge volume of the threats that we're seeing. We're also seeing traditional phishing, but we're seeing traditional phishing now AI driven. So AI is being used by the bad guys to write better phishing emails. Again, looking back through history, phishing emails were badly written, the grammar was poor, the use of the English language was poor, and that's because a lot of the time the people creating these attacks, English wasn't their native language, and they weren't living in an English-speaking country. Now with AI, you can ask your AI agent to write an email in English, and it will do an absolutely perfect job. It will also tailor that to improve the quality of the social engineering. It might even do an investigation on your intended victim or victims to find a subject that they are more likely to click on. So we're seeing much higher return rates, over 50% versus 12% that we were seeing in years gone past. We're also seeing email bombing. With email bombing, I don't just send you one email, I send you hundreds of thousands of emails. I sign you up, I spam you, I spam bomb you. And the idea is we use that noise, the attackers use that noise to try and hide the actual attack that goes on. So I had a customer a couple of years ago, their support organization got a huge spam bomb. When we started to investigate and we looked within this spam bomb, we actually found that the attacker was trying to reset the password for their DNS management. And those confirmations of password resets were getting lost amongst the other noise. So they were trying to hide their attack on DNS with huge volumes of spam. We're seeing a rise in BEC. Now, BEC is not a huge attack by volume. The reason BEC is getting a lot of headlines at the moment is because the new wave of email security companies such as Anomaly, Iron Scales, Vade, Armor Blocks, Simplicity, that use ICES, Integrated Cloud Email Security, and integrate with your Microsoft Office. That's what they do. They're great at BEC. They're also great at marketing. So they are going to the news at the moment and they're trying to make out that BEC is the most important thing around. Now, BEC is important. Somebody takes over a mailbox belonging to somebody in your supply chain and uses that to send you an email or piggyback on an existing conversation, and then tries to extort money or tries to get you to take an action or to divulge secret information. Very important. I will not say it is not important, but it's only a small fraction of the attacks that we see. And thus, those ICES, Integrated Cloud Email Security-based vendors, are an important part of the ecosystem, but they don't replace the secure email gateway. They don't have the same inline spam, phishing, and malware detection properties that we do. We're also seeing a lot of device code phishing. So this is phishing that is specifically designed to steal the results of a token. That can then be used as a man in the middle, and they will use that to attack systems which are protected by MFA. Big change in info stealers. So info stealers used to be Trojans that would steal information from your computer, and they were stealing of the information from your computer was the end game. Now what we're seeing is info stealers being used just as one step in an overall attack chain. So they might use, for instance, ClickFix. You need to install something, and that installation is a info stealer. That info stealer attacks your browser. It takes a dump of your cookies, your passwords, it takes a dump of your tokens, and either the attacker is using that to access your machine, or the attacker is more commonly selling that information on the dark web, which is then being purchased by ransomware affiliates, and they will then use that information which is being stolen by the info stealer to launch subsequent attack on your computer. But the point here is info stealers themselves have gone from being the entirety of the attack to one stage in a much more concerted and longer attack chain. We're also seeing ransomware shifting tactics. We're all familiar with ransomware. Ransomware encrypts the files on your computer. It attempts to encrypt the files on your shared drive and your corporate databases, and the bad guys are then going to ask for some Bitcoin to give you the key to do the decryption. That's still happening, but we're seeing a shift to double extortion. And in double extortion, yes, you're paying to get your data back, but at the same time, you're also now being asked to pay to stop that data being shared or sold on the dark web. So even if you have great backups in place, even if you have digital resilience in place and you're prepared for a ransomware attack and you can restore your data from a ransomware attack, they still have a copy of that data and they are still going to try and extort money from you to not share that data on the internet. So anybody who says now, yep, you could ransomware me, you could encrypt my files, I have double backups in place, and I can make sure that I can restore all of that information, then that company is still susceptible to the blackmail or extortion from the ransomware gangs. I've already mentioned AI. I get paid every time I say the letters A and I together, so there will be a lot of that during this presentation. I jest, of course, but AI is the really hot topic at the moment. And AI truly is a double-edged sword. AI is used by the good guys. AI is being used by the bad guys. I'm going to talk a little bit later about how the good guys are using AI, but AI is being used to generate incredibly good phishing emails, which we've already mentioned. It's also being used to generate spear phishing emails where it researches a particular victim. It goes onto your LinkedIn and it composes an email that looks absolutely like it's coming from somebody who you've never met before, but who knows you and is writing to ask you about your chosen subject. We're also seeing direct attacks on AI. I was talking to a customer yesterday about something called hashjacking. In hashjacking, what's actually happening is the bad guys are adding some base 64 encoded information hidden in the body of the email or in the metadata of the email. The intended recipient of the mail doesn't see it, but the AI copilot, other AI assistants are available, is reading that base 64 encoded information and is using it when it summarizes the mail for you. So things that may be picked up by data protection or spam or phishing scanning might be getting through and then be surfaced to the user from their AI. We're also seeing AI being used to build complex attack chains, AI being used to research corporate defenses and suggest new ways of attacking them. We're seeing AI potentially leaking information from a organization simply because people don't realize what they're doing and they put next quarter's sales forecast into a public AI agent to ask it to create some pretty graphs or charts. And what they've then done is shared corporate secret information with the internet. So many ways that AI can be good, and we talk about them every day, but there's so many ways in which AI can be bad, and there's so many ways in which AI can be misused. Final here, Google Drive. I mentioned Google Drive in my example of a long attack chain. Here is just an example that I saw quite recently. So firstly, the recipient receives an email. This one appears to come from Bank of America. And it says, you have a attachment which you need to look at. You double click the attachment, and then you can see here the second screenshot, drive.google.com, and what looks like a captcha. But of course, it isn't a captcha. It's a file hosted on Google Drive that requests the user clicks the link, presses the continue button, and that will then take them to a less legitimate file sharing site. And that will be a typo squat of the bank that is being impersonated. chasecentral.core.windows.net or something like that. Redirects to a typo squatting banking website, and that will then attempt to download the malware to a user. Now, we can't go around simply blocking access to legitimate file sharing sites. Of course, it would be a massive negative impact on business. So what we've got to do instead is not just look at the URL in the body of the mail, but follow that URL through to its intended destination. We call this link following. It's something we spend a lot of time and effort focusing on to make sure our systems can pass the URL, follow the URL to its destination. Finally, in my threat landscape, Screen Connect malware. Now, quite a lot of the time, this is being delivered via ClickFix. Here's an email from your IT organization. Hey, we've noticed a problem with your computer. We need you to download this screen sharing software, RMM, remote machine management software. And of course, it's either please go and download this from this site, so it'll be social engineering, or it will be a URL to a compromised version of Screen Connect or other software is available. Once that has been downloaded, it will have a custom configuration file which connects back to the attacker and says, hey, your victim has installed this, they've installed the config file, you can now click and connect and take over their machine and carry out whatever attack that you're going to be carrying out. Again, we're protecting our customers against this, and we're doing it in a number of different ways, through our anti-spam detection, through our link following technologies, through our web pulse categorization system, and from our antivirus signatures. And all four of these are contained within the email security service. So a quick reminder of the service overview. We are Broadcom. We have both a cloud-based email security solution and an on-prem email security solution as well. The cloud-based email security solution comes from Message Labs. Message Labs were purchased by Symantec at least 15 years ago now. And we also have Brightmail semantic messaging gateway. Symantec bought Brightmail even longer before that. The two products are different. They have different origins, but they do the same job. They do email hygiene, they do information protection, they drive our encryption solutions, and they integrate with your wider security ecosystem. Both of these solutions can protect on-prem servers or cloud servers. I have customers using email cloud to protect an on-prem gateway. I also, quite rare, have cloud customers using the semantic messaging gateway. And then I have some of our largest customers in the world who have maybe Office 365 or G Suite for their users, plus an on-prem source of email, sending invoices or statements or application mail, and they will use both Email Security Cloud and the semantic messaging gateway. My message to you is, it doesn't matter whether your customer is cloud, hybrid, or on-prem, we definitely have an email security solution to help protect them. I mustn't get sucked into this slide and spend too much time talking about it. Otherwise, we'll certainly run out of time this morning. The email security solution is not just one single technology. It is a stack of protection technologies, which we keep up to date and we will continuously add to on behalf of our customers. Almost every single type of email security technology that you care to mention has been considered, and in many cases has been added to our detection stack. We look at connections from third parties. We carry out authentication. We have signature-based anti-spam and anti-malware technologies. We have heuristic rule-based anti-spam and anti-malware technologies. We have the real-time link following that I've already been talking about. We have a cloud-based sandbox to detonate executable files. And then on top of all of that threat protection, we have image control to analyze photographs. We have impersonation controls to look at the display names on emails. We have a powerful data protection engine, which could control the flow of information into and out of your organization. And more recently, we have APIs, so customers can upload and download data from us in real time. And we have a new scan time policy engine, which acts as an email firewall and allows organizations to build their own customer-specific rules defining what emails they want to allow in and out of their company. We also integrate with DLP. This is true for both the on-prem and email cloud. So the Symantec data loss prevention solution is the best in the world without any doubt. It could look at endpoints, it could look at file servers, it could look at web, it could look at cloud, it could look at email. And one of the things that we can do is we can tightly integrate with it for email. So you write your DLP policies through your Enforce console, you apply those to your entire architecture, your company, to your endpoints, to your file servers, to your web, to your email, and then DLP will control the policies. We will then be able to quarantine that email either on-prem or in the cloud, it doesn't matter. And the customer will manage all of this centrally through their Enforce console. It can also be used to drive encryption. I haven't put the slide in for that, I'm sorry, but what it can do is DLP can identify when email can be shared, but email needs to be encrypted before it passes across the public internet. We could do that. DLP does the identification. Email Security Cloud or SMG integrates with our PGP solution, and the PGP solution will encrypt the mail, put it in a portal, send it as a password protected PDF, make sure it can go over TLS and deliver it to the intended recipient in a secure fashion. Okay, let's have a look at some of the things that we've done recently, demonstrating our commitment to the continual growth of this product and service, and to show how we are reacting to this latest changes in the threat landscape. The first one is our QR code scanner. So QR code based threats, I mentioned them at the beginning, but they have evolved incredibly rapidly. They started with just the QR code in the body of the mail. But since then, the attackers have changed and altered and broken and stretched the limits of QR code-based technology in an attempt to circumvent the protections that we put in place. I see round QR codes. I see triangular QR codes. I see QR codes with colored backgrounds. I see QR codes buried deep within fake employee handbook documents. I see fuzzy, blurred, split, and all of these are attempts by the attacker to test our ability to parse and understand the QR code. We have beaten them all. Our technology will extract the URL. It will follow the URL and it will treat it as though the body of the URL is just in the body of the email. We also have an OCR scanner. So this isn't just looking at the words that are contained within the email, it's looking at words which may be contained within images in the email. So let's say what I will do is I will send you a password protected file. That password protected file I will put the password in an image in the body of the mail. Our OCR scanner will identify that it is an image containing text. It will extract the letters from the text. It will then use those as a password to unlock the password protected file, and then it will scan the password protected file as though it was unencrypted. We have a lot of tech support scams. We have a lot of fake invoice scams. The call to action of these is a telephone number, which probably routes the victim through to a premium rate number somewhere abroad. And the attackers are making their money by keeping people on hold on the premium rate number for a short period of time. We can extract the information from the fake invoice and have signatures which identify it based upon the telephone numbers or the URLs or other information. And then finally, going back to ClickFix, the example in the middle in blue, that's just a photo. And it says, documents created by an online version of Microsoft Office. To edit or view this, please click enable editing and enable content. Of course, what this is using is social engineering to try and get the victim to turn security off. We can identify instructions like this contained within images and convict the email before it gets to the intended recipient. Finally, here we've got our PDQ scanner. Our PDQ scanner is actually looking for fuzzy matches of images. Incredibly technical, using machine learning, large language models, but basically what it allows us to do is to say, we know that image A is bad. So what we're going to do is we are going to identify image A and then variations on image A as well. So if the bad guy tries to subtly change the image they're using over and over again, we will be able to identify that and we will be able to trigger on that. Some examples here. As you can see, if you look amongst all of these, there are quite a lot of them are fake invoices, but Norton 360, McAfee are in there as well, Best Buy, PayPal. And I can tell you that in all of these examples, they look almost the same, but the bad guys subtly changed the image and the bad guys were disguising their payload and their social engineering within that image as well. So using a combination of our fuzzy image matching plus our OCR capabilities, we were able to quickly from being delivered to our customers. And all of this that I've just been talking about is completely behind the scenes. Our customers don't even need to turn it on. They don't need to understand it. It is there and it is included within our technology, within our rules-based anti-spam, within our rules-based anti-malware. We're also doing a lot of customer user experience development at the moment. The email security cloud service is mature. It's been around for 25 years. And during that time, we have changed and upgraded. We've changed our entire customer portal at least twice. But as we work with our customers, we find that they're using our tools in different ways. For example, we have a quarantine which was previously used for malware, for viruses, and it was very rare that anybody would go in there. If you did, there was a box on the screen that asked you for the identification number of the email. You put it in and you released it. What we've done recently with our new scan time policy tools is given our customers the option when they convict a mail to put it into our malware quarantine, our high security quarantine, if you like. And in order to be able to support that, we've upgraded the administration quarantine. So now you're going to be able to go in there. You're going to be able to carry out searches using a very modern interface, filter the mail, select multiple mails, choose to rescan those mails, or choose to release them either to an administrator or to an end user. So this is an example where we've gone back and enhanced existing functionality in order to be able to support new use cases. We've introduced in the last 2 years a completely brand new set of detection engines, and we call this scan and click time protection policy. So scan time policies are applied to the emails before we deliver them to you and your customers. And the background of these is that as I've been dealing with some of our largest customers in the world, they have good ideas. And they might say to me, Warren, I've decided that if a domain was registered less than 10 days ago, it's going to be malicious. And I need you to convict those emails and prevent them from reaching my users. Now, I always say, yes, that's a good idea to those customers, but then I will go away and I will do some analysis and I will do some research. And in this case, what I found was, yes, quite a lot of the time, bad actors do use freshly registered domains and freshly registered typo squads. But good guys who are just starting up a new business may also freshly register a domain and send email from it. Established organizations may start a new marketing campaign and freshly register a domain and start using it straight away. So this kind of request, it's a balance. Yes, it will stop some more unwanted email, but at the same time, it might cause some false positives. So I don't want to apply that to our entire customer base at once. Instead, scan time policies. What I will do is I will get the development team to create a conviction, to make it an option, and go back to my customer and say, brilliant idea, domain age, you can now turn on scan time policies and you can create a policy which will convict emails if the domain registered was less than 10 days old. Brilliant. On top of that, we've also introduced GeoIPs. So I have customers who say, I think any email coming from Russia or North Korea or China or various other places in the world is always going to be malicious. I have no customers there. I have no suppliers there. I just want to convict emails if IP addresses associated with those territories are in the header of a mail. Again, brilliant idea. If you don't do any business in North Korea, then rejecting emails from North Korea is going to improve your security. But we have customers all over the world. I deal with a hospital in America that has doctors who consult and has doctors who go abroad, and those doctors may email or work in countries that you would not normally do business with. So again, I can't apply that policy to my entire customer base. We put it into scan time. More recently, we've integrated it with Web Pulse. So you can now say, look at the URLs in the body, look at the URLs in the attachment. If they are from any of these web pulse categories, convict the mail. Now that could be block it, or it could be put it in a quarantine pen, or it could simply be annotate it with a block of text that I design in order to warn the user. And we're doing so much more. We might be at the moment potentially looking, for instance, at the ability to identify emails where the authentication isn't quite right. So yes, we do SPF, yes, we do DKIM, yes, we do DMARC, fantastic. But what if the headers of the email are broken, so you can't do authentication? It is quite common, actually. Now, I have a customer in the northern in Canada, and they said to me, I think all email missing a P1 address should be convicted and should be blocked. Again, I went away and did my research, and yes, indeed, the bad guys do try and send emails without the P1 address, which is mandated by the RFC. But at the same time, I also found a lot of business critical email being sent by applications which were badly coded. And those applications didn't include a P1 address. So including that kind of thing in our scan and click time protection policy engines enables customers to make the choice. Click time specifically moves beyond this. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but one of the things that we do is what's called URL rewriting. So if we see a URL in the body of the email, we could rewrite it. So every time a user clicks on that link, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe the week after, we check it. We check it for malware, for spam, for link following. We can check it for the category. We can check it for the risk level. And then we can make a choice either to block the click or send the click through isolation. If you're familiar with the Symantec web security service, you will know that there is an integrated isolation chamber. We use exactly the same technology in the email security service. So by rewriting the URL in the body of the mail, we can deliver URL categories, URL policy-based blocking, URL policy-based isolation with no software, with no hardware, with no configuration required on the endpoint. It works just as well on my iPhone as it does on somebody's Android device, as it does on a Mac, as it does on Windows, as it would even on Linux. So it's great for those organizations who may not have a comprehensive web security service in place because it covers all of the corner cases and can apply the same level of web security that you would have if you have those other things. I've already spoken about geo-blocking. I'm sorry, I mentioned that at the top when I was introducing. This is quite new. What we did with geo-blocking, again, I appreciate that many of you on this call may be technologists and you will know the caveats around this. There are resources on the web which attempt to link IP addresses to geographies. Now, none of these are perfect. We're not pretending that they're perfect, but they are really good. And all the customer needs to do is create a list of country codes. So we give them a drop down, they can choose countries by name, and then we do all the hard work to map those countries selected by name to the IP addresses. They can choose then to convict them and then log them or tag them or block them or put them in a quarantine based upon whether the IP addresses associated with those countries exist in the header of the mail. Lots of customers have chosen to put this in place. PGP. I'm sure you're all familiar with PGP. PGP originally got purchased by a company called Norton Associates, NAI. So this must be over 30 years ago now, 25, 30 years ago. And NAI sold PGP, and then Symantec bought PGP back. The PGP software and gateway is incredibly mature, incredibly feature rich. A couple of years ago, we decided to make a cloud version of that. So now what we can do is we can do email encryption in the cloud, no hardware, no software. It's compatible with Symantec Messaging Gateway. It's also compatible with Email Security Cloud. And you could drive it with DLP, or you could drive it with our own built-in policy engine. You could identify emails based upon sender, recipient, subject, body, attachment contents, and you can then define how you want them to be encrypted. Do you want them to be enforced over TLS? Do you want them to be sent as a password protected PDF? Do you want them to be put into a web portal which is branded with your corporate information and send your intended recipient a notification going, hey, you've got mail, and invite them to log in? This is used by variations of this are used by almost every single financial services organization in the world, healthcare organization, any company which cares about and wants to demonstrate to their consumers their dedication to security and the confidentiality of the customer data. You can still deliver it on-prem. So if you're in a region that doesn't really go too much for the cloud, Symantec Messaging Gateway plus the PGP on-prem will do all of these. But if you are looking at Email Security Cloud, you can look at Email Security Cloud with a cloud-based encryption platform, pay for it per user, and deliver it that way. Data feed updates. This is a bit dull, I'm sorry. But one of the things that our customer base demands these days is APIs. When I began, we would sell email security to the messaging team. They would be the ones who buy it, implement it, manage it, troubleshoot it. These days, we have to take into consideration the wider security organization within our customers. And a lot of that is driven by the SOC. Now, the SOC don't want to log into 12 or 14 different consoles. They may have products from many different vendors. They're not particularly interested, to be honest with you, in single pane of glass. What they want is to use their own tools. They want to use their own SIEM solution, threat hunting solution, SOAR tools, and they just want APIs. So what we've been doing is focusing in our ability to push data from both the email security service and SMG over REST APIs so it can be absorbed and used by our customers. We send multiple data points for every single email. Clean email, convicted email, we send detonation reports, we send attachment reports, and our customers could look at that. And we also open up an API through which the customers can upload threat indicators, indicators of compromise, to us. File hashes, senders, recipients, URLs, IP addresses, subject lines, and we will apply them to their email hygiene in real time. I talked about echo spoofing at the beginning. It's not a major thing. It's an example of that we saw an issue. We saw an issue with Microsoft and attackers abusing Microsoft to impersonate and spoof legitimate Microsoft customers. And we rapidly developed new technology in order to give our customers additional controls of their outbound mail. We identified the Microsoft high-risk bindings, which are used for bulk mail and for redirection. And we identified that the attackers could impersonate 99% of the customer, but they couldn't impersonate the originator ID. So we built some tools so that customers can now list and define the legitimate originator IDs that they use, and we can reject emails from anybody else. This has kind of stopped echo spoofing dead in its tracks, and we can move on with other things. Just a couple of weeks ago, we upgraded our scan time policies to include users and groups. So what this means is you can create a policy which only applies to a group of people within your organization, or you can exclude a group of people from your organization. So I was talking about that kind of domain age. We found with a big bank in the United States that they had a team who dealt with startups. And that team that dealt with startups were getting false positives. They were getting emails from the startups, recently registered domains being convicted. So we were able to say, yep, this policy applies to the entire bank except that group of people. We can also then help our customers test, because we can create complex, aggressive policies and say they only apply to the IT testing team. So we've introduced that to make for usability purposes. We've upgraded our user quarantine. So this used to be just for spam, and we gave end users access to it. But over time, its use has changed and grown. We put data protection in there, and some customers just want their admins. They don't want to give access to their individual end users, and that's fine. What they want is their administrators to be able to log in to the portal and carry out searches and release email and manage approved lists and block lists on behalf of their company. So what we did is we listened to their use cases and we upgraded the user experience. We moved it from something which was designed for the individual end user to something which was equally as useful to a spam manager, DLP manager, administrator. We improved the search experience. We improved the release experience. We changed the number of emails you can select at the same time. We increased the amount of data that you can see on those emails. Our customers love this. At the same time, incidentally, we've changed the protection for it. We've introduced multi-factor authentication. We've given our customers the ability to enforce federated single sign-on, and we've given our customers the ability to change the timeout. It used to be that there was a set timeout, and one or two of our customers who had people who worked in here all day, every day, came to us and said, Warren, my admins are going mad. They log into the quarantine, they turn away, they do something else, they come back, and it's logged them out and they need to log in again. If we're going to add multi-factor authentication, token based on top of that, then they're going to spend more of their time typing in token numbers than they're going to be doing working. So what we did was we exposed a setting where our customers can now choose how they want their users to log in. Can quarantine work directly from the DLP console to release quarantine email? That was a question from the audience. Thank you very much, Ionas. Sorry, I probably butchered your name. Yes, they can. So the Enforce Quarantine, the Enforce portal has an API integration with Quarantine. So if you're a DLP administrator, you never need to leave Enforce. You will see when an email has been quarantined in the portal by a symbol against that incident. You can then choose to delete it, to release it, or to release it and enforce encryption. So that is definitely a feature. So yes, and that uses a publicly available API, Sorin. So yeah, the same API that we use to integrate with the Enforce console is, you could use that for anything. If you wanted to write your own code to use that API, you can absolutely do that. If you wanted to build that into your own workflow, you can absolutely do that. Thank you very much for the questions, by the way. It's good that people are still paying attention this far in. Okay, so finally, what could the future hold? This is not a roadmap. This is not a promise of delivery of any particular technology. That is my caveat on here. Please do not make buying decisions based upon anything that I'm about to show you. But these are the kind of things that we're discussing. Policy framework. Now, this is quite an interesting use case. I see bad guys doing all kinds of crazy things with emails in an attempt to circumvent SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. They will break the headers. I've already spoken about the absence of P1 and P2 addresses. They will have DNS lookup failures where they put something in, but then they subtly break DNS so you can't actually check anything. So you don't just want to check authentication. You want to look at all the different status codes that authentication can give you. You want to look at whether it wasn't possible to authenticate. You want to look at whether there was a DNS timeout. These are the kind of things that, again, you might not want to kind of do a blanket conviction, but they're really useful ideas to include in your scan time policy engine. You may even want, for instance, I build SPF and I put soft fail on it. Somebody might want to identify that and take an action anyway. And a common one, this is being used by AOL, by Microsoft, by Yahoo right now, is they look at not just does it pass DMARC, they mandate that emails pass both SPF and DKIM. Now, if you're not familiar with authentication technologies, they are incredibly convoluted and complex, but at a high level, DMARC will pass if either SPF or DKIM passes. If either it comes from an authorized IP or it's been digitally signed. That's what the RFC says. That's how it should work. What Microsoft, Yahoo, and all the others have started to say is, no, we demand more. We demand that both SPF and DKIM pass, especially if you want to send high volumes of mail to our users. Is it a good idea? I've worked with some companies and they've had problems with it, but more and more people are looking at it. So wouldn't it be a good idea for us to be able to replicate what the rest of the industry is doing? Another thing to mention is changes in authentication. Is this part of email fraud protection or is already included in email cloud? I just want to reiterate, I'm taking a speculative look into the future right now. This is being recorded for YouTube, and as such, I can't talk about any roadmap items at all. So if you email me offline, if any of you email offline, either via Calman or if you know me direct to me, I would be more than happy to deliver a roadmap session under full NDA. Authentication is also moving forward, however. TLS version 1.3 has now been out for a while. Nobody is mandating it, but it is starting to become more popular and more widely supported. We're also seeing a rise in the use of DNSSEC. So core DNSSEC uses encrypted lookups and certificates in order to do DNS lookups. And then you have MTA STS. With MTA STS, a domain owner can highlight that they always want certain levels of security when people connect to them over TLS. And we're seeing more and more organizations start to use and support ARC. If you don't know about ARC, ARC basically says, I've authenticated you. I'm going to certify in the header of the mail that I've authenticated you. And then when I hand the mail off to another hop, perhaps it's a cloud-based email security provider, does the authentication, adds an ARC signature, and then Microsoft or Google, who is ever sitting behind it, doesn't need to try and re-authenticate. They trust the authenticated received chain. This is becoming more popular, and certainly everybody is looking at it at the moment. And then finally, post-quantum cryptography. Now, this is long and medium term. There will come a time in the very near future where quantum computers could break a lot of the weaker, more legacy algorithms and ciphers and keys. Now, a lot of people just get focused in on the fact that this might mean an impact on confidentiality. Somebody can read my email, but that's actually not the biggest part of the problem. It is part of the problem, and we need to address encryption at rest. We need to address databases. We need to address cryptographic libraries for TLS and for other forms of encryption. But the bigger part of the problem is digital signatures. Digital signatures work in exactly the same way as cryptographic for confidentiality. So imagine HTTPS isn't just about encrypting your link to your bank. It's about also authenticating that that URL is the right one for your bank. Your file updates on Windows and Mac, they've been digitally signed by the supplier, so we know that we can trust them. Digital signatures on emails. You can start to see now digital signatures in DNS to show that we can trust our lookups. If we can break that, then we can impersonate people, and that opens up a whole horrible world. So post-quantum cryptography is about both confidentiality, but also about integrity and non-repudiation as well. Everything on this slide isn't about us. This isn't my roadmap. This is us looking at the outside world, the standard bodies, and looking at how they are moving through. Some things are very short term. Making sure that you use the latest key strengths, the latest ciphers, the latest protocols, which are all post-quantum cryptography capable. Those are happening in the near future. But then you look at the IEEE, you look at the International Telephony Forums, and you look at the people who write the standards, and we have to look years into the future. Signing tools, cryptographic libraries for OpenSSL, DNS security. DNS security from the people who do DNS security standards, MTAs 2027, DNSSEC 2035. That will probably come forward. Latest versions of DKIM, latest DKIM standards 2029. And so on and so on and so on. So the important thing really in working with a lot of my big customers on this is they want to know that we have a post-quantum cryptographics strategy. And we do. We have looked at every single part of our business, not just email, but web and development cycles and code signing and endpoint and everything. And as a business, Broadcom is moving forward with a post-quantum cryptographic that isn't just we are going to do this, but also in certain respects is we are trying to influence standards bodies maybe to move more quickly. So any questions about this, please route them to me and I will be able to give more details. So that's it. I've hit the hour on the nail. Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. If there are any further questions, I don't mind staying now for a few moments. If there's something that you've been too busy listening and haven't had a time to type, then please drop that into the chat. Put it to everybody or put it to direct. I haven't got anything in there at the moment. Let's give it a few seconds. But if you think of something in 10 minutes time.
I think we have a question, Warren, on the direct. It's coming from George. If you can have a look, or I can read it out loud to you.
Fantastic presentation, truly appreciated. Lovely, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Very useful for me and my team. We have a huge problem initiating a discussion with all prospects, and they are all Microsoft, and they are using O365 and all kinds of Microsoft tools, so they believe that they are fully covered, no reason for additional security. Every single one of my customers uses either G Suite or Office 365. Every single major security-aware organization in the world, the banks, the healthcare, the insurance, the government, has additional layers of security. Why? Without going into too many details, every single bad guy has an Office 365 account. That's it. That's all you need to know. Every single threat actor has an Office 365 account and a Google account. And that means before they launch their attack on your customer, they will already have double checked to make sure that attack will penetrate Microsoft Office 365. I do not ever say that Microsoft Office 365 is bad. They are doing everything that they can possibly do. But at the same time, they are in a terrible situation because they are used to QA to test every single new threat. You look at the big companies, they've got Office 365 for sure. They've got a separate secure email gateway in front of that, whether that's us, Mimecast, Proofpoint, any of the others. And many of them now also are investing in the ICES-based technologies. They're investing in the abnormals and the securities and the VAIDs and the iron scales and the armor blocks. So strength in depth. Do not rely on one technology, especially if that technology is ubiquitous and common, because it will work up until the time that the bad guys turn their attention to you and the bad guys say, I'm going to attack your organization today, so I'm just going to tailor this email, probably using AI, and I'm going to test it through my Office 365 account, which has exactly the same security as yours. I'm going to alter it subtly until it gets through, and then I'm going to attack you. So multiple layers of security. Think about, I always used to think about an onion. You don't just want one homogeneous same. You don't just want Defender on the endpoint and Microsoft Office 365 security controls. You need multiple products from different vendors to reduce the risk. And the more you use, the lower the risk will be. So that would be my catchy points to spark that conversation. Look at what the most security conscious organizations in the world are doing and take note. Now, following on from that, multiple levels of security. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of extra work. So what you need is a third-party vendor which has a very low total cost of ownership, low resources, designed to be a software as a service solution, turnkey, that will just provide you with a lot of extra security at a minimum of extra administration. And that's absolutely where the email security service fits. We were designed from the ground up as a managed service provider. We weren't just software, which was virtualized. You can say that about some of our competitors. We were designed so we do all the hard work, so the customer doesn't need to, and we can simply be layered on top of Office 365.
Perfect.
Is there any difference in core technology between email security cloud and messaging gateway? Yes, there is. Absolutely. The messaging gateway was created by the Brightmail Corporation out of San Francisco. The email security cloud service was created by a company called Star Internet, who I had the pleasure of working from here in Gloucester in the United Kingdom. Totally separate origins. Now, bring it forward to today. Our development teams work hand in glove together. Our threat protection teams work hand in glove together. The feature sets are not the same. Yes, we do similar positive business impacts, but it's definitely not the case to say that one is just a cloud version or one is just an on-prem version of the other. Right.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all the questions we have received. Thank you so much, Warren, for such amazing presentation. I even enjoyed it myself. Thank you so much all for joining us today. As mentioned, you will be receiving the recording shortly. And before you leave, we kindly ask you to complete the short survey you will receive after ending the session. Also, if you'd like to explore further or to schedule a demo or to have conversation with Warren, please reach us at info@mbcom.com. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day. Take care.